Something is happening in your life right now that doesn't make sense. The pressure feels heavier than usual. The resistance is stronger than before. Doors that once seemed open now feel delayed, and the weight in your spirit is hard to explain. But what if this isn't a sign that you're falling apart? What if this is the moment, right before everything shifts? The truth many people never realize is this: the enemy doesn't waste energy on something that has no purpose. He doesn't fight what isn't a threat. So when the battle intensifies, when your thoughts feel attacked, when discouragement tries to settle in without warning, it's not random, it's strategic, it's targeted, and it often happens when you are closer than you've ever been. The Bible shows us this pattern again and again. Right before Joseph stepped into the palace, he was thrown into prison. Right before David wore the crown, he was hunted in the wilderness. Right before Jesus fulfilled his mission, he was tempted in the desert. The moment before breakthrough often looks like the moment of greatest struggle, not because God has left you, but because something significant is about to be released in your life. Right now, you might feel like nothing is moving. You might be questioning if your prayers are being heard, if your efforts matter, if your faith is enough. But there is something the enemy is trying to keep from you: your perspective. Because if you could truly see how close you are, you wouldn't give up. If you could see what God is preparing behind the scenes, your fear would turn into expectation. This is the tension of faith, standing in the middle of uncertainty while trusting a God who sees the end from the beginning. Walking forward when everything around you tells you to stop. Believing that what feels like delay is actually divine positioning. You are not here by accident. This message found you for a reason. In this very moment, God is reminding you that what you're facing is not meant to break you, it's meant to bring you through. The enemy wants you to think you're stuck, forgotten, or too late. But the truth is much different. You're not stuck, you're not forgotten, and you're not far away. You're closer than you think. Number one, the battle intensifies when breakthrough is near. There is a moment in every God-ordained journey where the pressure suddenly increases. It doesn't ease up, it tightens. It doesn't get clearer, it gets confusing. And if you don't understand what's happening spiritually, you might misinterpret that pressure as failure, or worse, as a sign that you're going in the wrong direction. But Scripture reveals a different truth. The enemy does not attack randomly. He observes patterns, he watches movement, and when he senses that something is about to shift in your life, when a door is about to open, when a prayer is about to be answered, when a breakthrough is within reach, he intensifies the battle in an attempt to stop you before you step into it. Look at Joseph. God gave him a dream, a promise of elevation and purpose, but before that promise was fulfilled, his life didn't improve, it got worse. Betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. If Joseph had judged his situation by what he saw, he would have believed he was moving further away from God's plan. But in reality, every hardship was positioning him closer to the palace. The same pattern appears with David, anointed as king, chosen by God. Yet instead of immediately stepping into the throne, he found himself running for his life, hunted, rejected, hiding in caves. The gap between the promise and the fulfillment was filled with pressure, not because God changed his mind, but because David was being prepared and because the enemy recognized what was coming. And this is where many people give up. Not at the beginning, not when things are easy, but right before the breakthrough, right when the resistance becomes overwhelming. That's the moment the enemy hopes you'll misread the situation. He wants you to believe that the struggle means stop, when in reality, it often means you're almost there. The battle you're facing right now may not be a sign of defeat. It may be confirmation that something is about to break open in your life. That heaviness you feel, that sudden wave of doubt, that unexpected opposition, it's not meaningless. It's targeted. Because if you keep going, if you don't quit, if you stay aligned with God in this moment, you're going to step into something the enemy cannot stop once it's released. So don't measure your progress by how easy it feels. Measure it by your obedience. Measure it by your faith. Because sometimes the strongest resistance comes right before the greatest release. Number two, what you feel right now is not failure, it's transition. There's a space in life that feels uncomfortable, unclear, and unstable. It's the place where what used to work no longer works. But what's coming next hasn't fully appeared yet. It's the in-between. And if you're not careful, you'll mistake this space for failure. But it's not failure, it's transition. God often moves his people through seasons that don't make sense in the moment, not to confuse them, but to transform them. Because before he changes your circumstances, he changes you. Before he elevates your position, he strengthens your foundation. Think about Moses. He was raised in a palace, surrounded by power and influence. But before God used him to lead a nation, Moses spent years in the wilderness. Not days, not weeks, years, a place of isolation, obscurity, and silence. To anyone looking from the outside, it would seem like Moses had lost everything. But in reality, he was being reshaped for something greater than he could imagine. Even Jesus went through this pattern. Before stepping into his public ministry, before the miracles, before the teaching, before the impact, he was led into the wilderness, a place of testing, a place where nothing external validated what was happening internally. And yet, that season was necessary. Because transition is not comfortable. It stretches you, it challenges your faith, it forces you to let go of what's familiar so you can step into what's next. Right now, you might feel like things are falling apart. You might feel disconnected from where you used to be, unsure of where you're going. The clarity you once had feels distant, and the stability you relied on seems to be shifting. But this is what transition feels like. It's the moment where God is removing what can't go with you into your next season. It's where he's building endurance, refining your character, and deepening your trust in him, not in what you see, but in who he is. The danger in this season is mislabeling it. If you call it failure, you'll want to escape it. If you call it delay, you'll grow frustrated in it. But if you recognize it as transition, you'll learn to walk through it with faith, because you are not being set back. You are being repositioned. You are not losing ground. You are being prepared for new ground. And even though it doesn't feel like progress, even though it feels slow, uncertain, and even painful at times, God is doing something deeper than what's visible. He is getting you ready, not for where you've been, but for where you're about to step into. Number 3, the enemy's strategy: blur your vision at the final moment. There is a reason your thoughts feel louder right now, a reason doubt seems more convincing, a reason distractions suddenly appear when you're trying to focus, pray, or stay consistent. It's not random, it's a strategy. The enemy knows he cannot stop God's plan for your life, but he will try to stop you from walking into it. And one of his most effective tactics is not destruction, but distortion. If he can't destroy your purpose, he will try to blur your vision. Because if you can't see clearly, you won't move confidently. This is exactly what happened to Peter. He stepped out of the boat in faith, doing something impossible, walking on water toward Jesus. As long as his focus stayed on Jesus, he was sustained. But the moment he shifted his attention to the wind and the waves, fear took over, and he began to sink. Nothing around him had actually changed. The storm was already there. The difference was his focus. And that's what the enemy targets: your focus. He will remind you of past failures. He will magnify your current problems. He will plant thoughts that say, "This isn't working. You're not ready. Maybe this isn't for you." Not because those thoughts are true, but because if you believe them, you'll step back. And stepping back is all he needs. Because many people don't lose because they were defeated. They lose because they stopped. Right now, if you feel mentally exhausted, if your confidence feels shaken, if your clarity feels clouded, it's not a sign that you're weak. It's a sign that you're being targeted. The enemy is trying to get you to question what God has already spoken. But this is the moment you must guard your mind. You have to choose what you focus on, not based on feelings, not based on circumstances, but based on truth. God's promises don't change just because your situation looks uncertain. His word remains steady even when your emotions don't. So when doubt tries to speak, you answer it with truth. When fear rises, you bring your focus back to God. When distractions pull at your attention, you realign your spirit, because clarity is power. And if you can see clearly in this moment, if you can stay focused despite the noise, you won't just survive this season. You'll walk through it. Number 4, God is working even when you see nothing. One of the hardest things to accept is that God can be moving in your life even when there is no visible evidence of it. No signs, no confirmation, no immediate answers, just silence, waiting, and uncertainty. And in that silence, it's easy to assume that nothing is happening. But the truth is, some of God's greatest works happen unseen. Think about a seed planted in the ground. For a long time, nothing appears on the surface. No growth, no movement. It looks like the seed is doing nothing. But beneath the soil, something powerful is happening. Roots are forming, strength is developing, life is taking shape in a place no one can see. If you judge the process only by what's visible, you would think it's not working. But the unseen work is what makes the visible breakthrough possible. This is how God often operates. Romans 8:28 reminds us that He is working all things together for good. Not some things, not only the things that make sense, all things. Even the delays, even the disappointments, even the seasons that feel empty. And Isaiah 55 tells us that His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts higher than our thoughts, which means there will be moments where you won't understand what He's doing, moments where His timing won't align with your expectations. But lack of understanding does not mean lack of activity. God may be aligning people you haven't met yet, opening doors you can't see yet, closing paths that would have led you in the wrong direction, protecting you from things you don't even realize were coming. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. This is where trust becomes essential. Not trust based on evidence, but trust based on who God is. A God who is faithful, a God who keeps His promises, a God who finishes what He starts. Right now, you might feel like you're waiting, like nothing is moving, like your prayers are unanswered. But don't confuse silence with absence. God is present, God is working, and God is preparing something that will make sense in time. Your role in this season is not to figure everything out. Your role is to trust Him through it. Because when the breakthrough finally comes, you'll realize that God was moving the entire time, even when you couldn't see a single thing. Number 5, you're being strengthened for what's coming next. There are moments when life feels heavier than it should, when the weight you're carrying doesn't seem fair and the pressure feels constant. You pray for relief, for things to get easier, for the burden to lift. But instead, the season continues, the challenge remains, and it leaves you wondering why. But what if the weight isn't there to crush you? What if it's there to build you? God does not place you into something you are not being prepared to handle. Every season of pressure carries a purpose, not to break your spirit, but to strengthen your capacity. Because what God is about to bring into your life requires a version of you that is ready. Think about David again. Before he stood as king, he stood in fields, alone, tending sheep. Before he led a nation, he fought lions and bears in private. No audience, no recognition, just preparation. Those battles weren't random, they were training. Because when Goliath showed up, David was not intimidated. He had already been built in the hidden place. What you're going through right now may feel hidden, unnoticed, even unfair. But God does some of His deepest work in places where no one else is looking. He builds strength in silence. He develops endurance in waiting. He forms character in pressure. And here's the truth. If God gave you the blessing before the preparation, it could destroy you instead of elevate you. So instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" begin to ask, "What is this building in me?" Because every challenge is increasing your endurance. Every delay is stretching your patience. Every obstacle is strengthening your faith. You are becoming someone who can carry more, handle more, and sustain more. This is not punishment. This is preparation. God is not trying to slow you down. He is making sure that when you arrive, you can stay. That when the door opens, you don't collapse under the weight of what you prayed for. So don't resist the process. Don't run from the pressure. Lean into it. Because what feels heavy now is developing strength that will sustain you later. You are not just going through something, you are becoming someone. Number 6, don't quit in the final stretch. There is a critical moment in every journey where quitting feels like the easiest option. Not because you're weak, but because you're tired. You've been believing, praying, pushing forward, and yet you haven't seen what you expected. The gap between where you are and where you hope to be feels exhausting. And this is exactly where many people stop. Not at the beginning, not when things first get hard, but in the final stretch when they are closer than they realize. Galatians 6:9 gives a powerful reminder. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Notice that promise is conditional. The harvest is certain, but it is connected to endurance. If you do not give up, the enemy understands this principle. He knows he doesn't have to defeat you completely. He just needs to convince you to stop, to slow down, to lose hope, to believe that nothing is coming from your effort. Because the moment you quit, you step away from what was already on the way. Think about a runner nearing the finish line. Their body is tired, their strength is fading, every step feels heavier than the last, but the finish line is closer than ever. If they stop at that moment, all the effort before it doesn't lead to completion. This is where you are right now. You may feel tired. You may feel like you've given everything. You may feel like stopping would be easier than continuing. But this is not the time to quit. This is the time to press in even more, to pray when you feel like being silent, to believe when doubt is loud, to move forward even when you don't feel strong. Because your feelings are not the indicator of your progress. Your faith is. God has not brought you this far to leave you here. He has not allowed you to endure all of this just for it to end in nothing. There is a purpose behind your persistence. There is a reward attached to your endurance, and you are too close to walk away now. So take one more step, then another, even if it's slow, even if it's difficult, because the final stretch is not where you stop, it's where you finish. Number 7, your breakthrough is closer than you think. There comes a moment when everything begins to shift. Not always visibly, not always dramatically, but spiritually, something changes. The weight you've been carrying starts to feel different. The resistance that once felt overwhelming begins to lose its grip. And even if nothing around you has fully changed yet, something inside you knows you're not in the same place anymore. This is the moment many people miss because they're looking for a sudden, obvious sign, a clear answer, an immediate transformation. But often, breakthrough doesn't announce itself loudly. It begins quietly. It starts in the unseen before it manifests in the visible. In Scripture, breakthroughs rarely look the way people expected. When the walls of Jericho fell, it wasn't after one shout, it was after consistent obedience, day after day, even when nothing seemed to be happening. When Elijah prayed for rain, the sky didn't change instantly. It took persistence, focus, and faith until a small cloud appeared. Just a sign, but enough to confirm that something greater was coming. This is where you are. You may not see the full picture yet, but there are signs. Subtle shifts, small confirmations, a new strength rising in you, a clarity that wasn't there before, a peace that doesn't match your circumstances. These are not coincidences. They are indicators. God is moving, and the enemy knows it. That's why the pressure increased. That's why the doubts came stronger. That's why distractions tried to pull you away. Because if you recognize how close you are, nothing will be able to stop you. Breakthrough is not just about what happens around you. It's about what has already been established within you. Your faith has been stretched. Your endurance has been built. Your trust in God has deepened. You are not the same person who started this journey. And that means you are ready. Even if it doesn't look like it yet, even if it doesn't feel complete, you are standing at the edge of something significant. Something God has been preparing for longer than you realize. So don't step back now. Don't let doubt talk you out of what faith has brought you into. Stand firm, stay focused, keep moving forward, because what you've been praying for, what you've been believing for, what you've been holding on to is closer than you think. Conclusion, right now, you are not in a place of defeat. You are in a moment of decision, a moment where everything you've been through is leading you to one question. Will you keep going or will you let go? The enemy has been working hard to make you feel like you're stuck, like nothing is changing, like your efforts don't matter. But the truth is, the intensity of the battle was never meant to stop you. It was meant to distract you from how close you are. Because if you could fully see what God is doing, you wouldn't hesitate, you wouldn't doubt, you wouldn't consider quitting. But faith was never about seeing first. It's about trusting first. And God has been faithful. Through every delay, every struggle, every moment of uncertainty, He has not left you. He has been guiding, shaping, protecting, and preparing you for something that is still unfolding. You didn't come this far by accident. Every step, every tear, every prayer, it all matters, and it has all been leading you here. So don't allow this moment to be where you stop. Let it be where you decide to believe again, to trust deeper, to stand stronger than before. Because what's ahead of you is not random. It's intentional, it's prepared, and it's yours to step into. If you don't give up now, hold on, stay faithful, keep moving forward, because the truth remains no matter what it looks like around you. You are not far away. You are closer than you think.